Hi folks, and welcome back to I'm Wood Jones. Glad to see you again. Now, the other day I was thinking to myself, I wonder what it would be like for somebody who is starting a workshop from scratch and they don't know anything about the tools and equipment that they need to buy. And I thought, well, that's an interesting one, because what would be the first 5 tools that I would buy or would want or would need in a workshop, and how would I use them? If I was to do this again, if it was me and I was to do it again, these would be the 5 tools that I would buy. Number 1 of the top 5 is the chop saw here. Now, the chop saw is, well, it is a brilliant tool. It is so useful because you can cut with a handsaw, yes, you can cut with a jigsaw, yes, you can cut with a circular saw. But when you're doing a lot of repetitive cuts, cutting things down and you're sizing them up, so you're sort of, you cut a bit and then you bring it back to your, oh, and I just need to take a little bit extra off. You can slither, absolute slithers, shaves off 1/2 millimeter or something like that off the end grain of your wood, which is really difficult to do with a handsaw. This tool hadn't come out when I first started woodworking, and I talk, we're going back centuries really. But I got one years and years ago, and I've never regretted it. The chop saw is the number 1 tool. Have it in your garage or in your workshop, and have it somewhere where you bring in long lengths from outside. So you bring it in through your garage door and you put them straight on the chop saw bench. And that's the first place they need to be, because it's sort of a bit of an efficiency of movement, if you like, an efficiency of moving of goods. You don't want to keep moving things 2 or 3 times. Have your chop saw there, you bring your stuff in and you cut it down to size, and then you come round and put it onto your bench and you're ready to go. The second tool out of the top 5 I would buy, and this might be a little bit controversial, I understand that, fair enough, but it's the bandsaw. Now, just bear with me, I know, a jigsaw would do exactly the same. But with a bandsaw, you can rip pieces of wood down lengthwise. And that's really important. It's very difficult to do with a jigsaw. I mean, don't get me wrong, a jigsaw is just a very important tool, and it was a dilemma between sort of having this and that. And you're thinking to yourself, but a bandsaw, it's expensive. They're expensive to buy. Well, believe it or not, you can get this for almost the same price as this. This is the cheapest bandsaw that I can get on the market. I'm not talking about brand names, so don't look at the brands. I'm not advertising anybody's brand here. I'm just talking about the specific tool and what it does and how it works. For years and years and years, I put off getting a bandsaw. One day I thought, it was on a special offer, I thought, okay, I'll get one. And blimey, I tell you what, I have never looked back since. If you have a jigsaw, yes, you can rip things down, but they're not, how should we say, the lines are a bit wonky. Not as straight as you can get it with a bandsaw. The bandsaw sits just in the corner, and it's a go-to tool, because what you do, you go to it, turn it on, cut your piece, turn it off and come back, and then you fit it and whatever. It doesn't matter whether you're making cabinets or whether you're doing craft work, whether you're making bird tables or houses or whatever it is that you want to make. You're going to need to cut your wood lengthways down the grain. And so the bandsaw is a really useful tool that I wish actually I'd bought many years prior to when I bought it. Number 3, the handheld circular saw. It is such a good tool and such a versatile tool, but once again, what happens with this is that you're using it to cut down sheet material generally. You might be ripping down a 6x2 or an 8x2 or something like that. So it's bringing your heavy sheets material into a shop and then cutting it down, or cutting it outside and then bringing it in. The one thing I would be very careful with is kickback on this, because it is notorious for that, and it can be quite dangerous. I would say that really the most important thing when you're using any equipment is to make sure that your work is well supported, and that is more so the case with the circular saw. I see all too often people using it and they don't use it correctly. So always have your work well supported prior to cutting, and then you won't get kickback, or you won't get blade scorch or anything else, or the piece falling off and breaking and snapping the end, and you don't get a clean cut. So support your work, be careful with it, but it's a fantastic tool, definitely for the workshop. Number 4, the drill. And really, it doesn't need any explanation. One of them, the most, if not the most used tool every day, and everybody has one, everybody uses them. But there's a caveat to that, and I'll show you now. Okay, firstly, when you buy them in a pair. They come in pairs, and this is an impact driver, which impacts your screws. So when you're putting your screw in, it helps to put your screw in, and it makes a hell of a noise, which my wife hates. But I love it because it just saves you so much work. It makes things effortless, and it's brilliant. And obviously you get your drill, which drills holes. Now, this is an 18-volt drill, much bigger. These would tend to be used on site. They're big, they're strong, they're beefy, and they all go on forever. But we're working in a workshop, so we don't want, I mean, you can imagine, you know, putting in a tiny little screw with this great big thing. It weighs a ton and it's very heavy. And if you're putting in 100+ screws in a cabinet, and that's not uncommon to do, you've got to drill 100+ holes with them. And this is nice, it's compact, it's light, it's easy to use, and you can use it all day. For our particular application, we want to work on the bench. We want to just drill holes, and these really are on my bench everywhere. You have your drill bit ready to go in this one, and that'll stay in there, and then your screwdriver bit will stay in here, and then you just put one down and pick the other up, and it just makes life so much easier and much quicker. Okay, 5 of 5 on the last one. Now, you've brought your wood in, you've cut it down, you've put your cabinet together or your project together, and you want to finish it off. And what better way to finish it off than with a palm sander, or a sander. But the palm sander is the most commonly used. It's a very cheap tool as well to buy. It's not expensive at all. They're brilliant little things, and dusty, a bit noisy, but that's the nature of the game. A little tip, always get Velcros. Makes a lot of difference, makes it much easier. These have, you get these clips on them, and these, what they do, the paper wraps around and then you clip this, and it's fiddly. Oh gosh, is it fiddly. But this is only a little dinky sander. It's not very big. And sometimes you'll have a bigger project that you'll need to move a bit more wood off the surface to get it to the stage at which you want to use the palm sander. And that's where these boys come in, because obviously you can see this is much bigger. It covers a much bigger surface, and it's much more powerful than the small one, and it will just take it off much quicker. And I've just put 3 in here, or the other 2 in here, to show you. This is a belt sander, and this is a beast. I mean, it weighs a flipping ton, and it's supposed to weigh a ton, because that's the idea. When you're putting it on your wood, the weight helps to keep it down onto the surface, and then you sand the surface. So these are really good for this one. The belt sander is really good for taking a lot of material off very quickly. So if you've got a tabletop, for instance, and it's got a lot of undulation in it, you can take that undulation out with this belt sander. So those 2, they're not necessary, but this one is. I would use this one, start with this one, and then you'll find progressing to these. Once you've used these, you'll understand. But just to get you going, to get you started, the palm sander, fantastic piece of kit. Now, all these tools are sort of really what I would buy if I was starting again. And with the experience that I've had of using these tools over the years, I think that they are brilliant tools. And I think if I was to start a workshop from complete scratch, these would be the first tools I would buy to get me going. Obviously you can elaborate on them over time and add more and more, and we all do, and we all will. Everybody will have their own sort of different agendas, if you like, and their different thoughts on things, and that's fine. You know, you buy or do whatever you need to do that suits you, and that's the most important thing. And that's it. And thanks very much. Now, please like and subscribe, and any details, etc., will be in the description below. And come back and see us again soon. Thanks for watching. Cheerio.